I had a comment left on Anxiety Wizard, and I think it's a really interesting comment, so I'd like to just spend a little bit more time exploring it, because I think it will give us lots more insights into the nature of anxiety, worry, catastrophizing, and a little bit into OCD. So let me read you the comment and then I can talk a little bit about it. So this user has been in Anxiety Wizard for a while, and he says, I was in module 4 but I came back here. I relate a lot to ants. Now, ants are automatic negative thoughts. In my case, it's more automatic negative conclusions. Not just a thought. I jump to such negative conclusions even when I have good arguments suggesting these conclusions may not be true. I sometimes make notes of the truth so that I don't forget. It's a way for me to challenge my ants. I'd like to know if it's a common symptom of anxiety/OCD sufferers to easily forget about true facts. This happens because I'm overwhelmed by what ifs. Simple example. I've washed my hands, reality, but I don't remember having washed my hands, what ifs. Therefore, I may not have washed my hands, conclusion/internal reality. So I need to go wash my hands again. I forgot the truth in the above example because my what ifs have taken the best of me. You can see the steps from reality to internal reality, which you describe in many of your videos. Okay, so that's a really interesting comment because it covers a lot of ground, but it also starts from an interesting place. It starts from the idea of threat. Now, all anxiety and OCD is a trick played on you by your brain, because your brain is telling you that you are at risk in some way, but the fact is that you're not at risk. Now, how do I know you're not at risk? Because every year, many millions of people, well, certainly many hundreds of thousands of people, recover from anxiety, but their external circumstances haven't changed. What has changed is their internal circumstances. Now, this user has been going through Anxiety Wizard diligently, so the user understands the difference between internal reality and external reality. But just in case you're not familiar with it, external reality is everything that goes on outside of you. Internal reality is what goes on inside of you. Now, this user, whilst aware of the two realities, is struggling to recognize which reality they're in sometimes. If you are genuinely contaminated in some respects, which is kind of an OCD idea, it's a preoccupation, it's one of the preoccupations in OCD. If you're contaminated, that is an external reality problem. So if you put your hands into mud, your hands are muddy, that's an external reality problem. But with OCD, there's a confusion because you're not actually contaminated, because you're just doing the same as everybody else, and pretty much nobody else is contaminated. So it's actually an internal reality problem. Anxiety and OCD are entirely internal reality problems. Anxiety and OCD are not actually valid threats. They don't exist in the external world. They exist in the internal world. And the biggest problem I think that people often have is to recognize that it's your internal world. It's your internal world that is creating and maintaining your anxiety and OCD, not anything that happens in the external world. So in the simple example, I have washed my hands, reality, but I don't remember having washed my hands, what ifs. Now that's not quite true. It's not that this user doesn't remember washing their hands, they're just not sure if they've done it. Now there's a thing called competition theory. And let me explain it simply like this, right? I have a very difficult time navigating in London. I just don't know where I am half the time. So if I've come to this kind of idea, if I think I should go that way, then I should go that way, because I take the wrong turn as often as I take the right turn. So in my mind, I don't have an established confidence level about my decisions to turn left or right. So basically, it almost doesn't matter what I do because I'll probably have to correct it. But when we think about washing our hands, right, he remembers washing his hands, but because he washes his hands and then later on says, what if I didn't wash my hands, or did I wash my hands? The representation of did I do it is in conflict with the memory of having done it. And so what we have is a level of confidence much lower than you would normally expect. Yeah, I remember washing my hands. Yeah, I remember brushing my teeth. But did I brush my teeth? So that what if interferes with the memory of having done it. The other thing is that highly practiced events such as washing the hands, brushing the teeth, we don't really remember doing them very well because we don't need to remember doing them. There's no meaning in actually remembering it. So we kind of go, yeah, I probably did. And that would normally be adequate, right? Did I brush my teeth? Yeah, I probably did. You go look at your teeth, yeah, they're okay. And that's adequate normally. So if you ask yourself for a level of certainty about something that you do repetitively without thinking, then that can sometimes undermine the certainty that you would normally have and your confidence in your judgment. So this user says, I forget the truth. Well, it's not that they forget the truth, it's just that they're not confident in the truth. And that's the kind of the point really I think that I want to make. So let's sort of, let's compile some points. The first one is that anxiety and OCD are always overestimations of threat. You're not actually under any threat. You're not contaminated. There is nothing you need to do in the external world to keep yourself safer than anybody else would normally do. The second thing is that anxiety and OCD are internal reality problems, not external reality problems. Now, virtually everyone who struggles with these things tries to solve them in external reality, but they're not external reality problems. So there's nothing you can do in external reality to fully solve the problem of anxiety and OCD because they're internal reality problems. Therefore, we have to work on the belief. And what we've talked about here with what ifs is a worry process where you do something and then you ask yourself if you've done it. Now, asking yourself if you've done it undermines your confidence, your normal confidence in what you've done. But the other thing is, simple things like washing hands, locking doors, brushing teeth, etc. are always, they're not very well encoded because we do them repetitively and the brain just doesn't make any effort to remember them very well. And so if you go back and say, well, did I do that? There's not a very strong memory trace because you just didn't give much attention to it. You did it on automatic pilot. And so you could say, well, yeah, I normally do it. And that's normally good enough. So asking the what if actually undermines the certainty. So the user thinks that asking what if is like a sensible question. Yeah, but what if I didn't? Did I do it? What if I didn't? But actually asking the what if undermines the certainty in having committed the action. So what we need to do then is to not ask what if. We just have to assume, as everybody else in the world would do, that you do the things that you normally do on automatic pilot, because of course most of what we do is on automatic pilot. So 3 things. The first one is you're not at threat, you're safer than you feel you are. The second one is it's an internal reality problem, don't try to solve it in external reality. And the third thing is use the worry tools to stop the process of asking if you've done something. So I hope you found that interesting. It's always interesting when people leave comments. So as you go through Anxiety Wizard, please do leave comments. I like to read them, and I always answer every comment. It's exceptional that I make a video about this one, but it's an interesting point that they made. If you haven't joined Anxiety Wizard yet, please do join Anxiety Wizard and start dealing with the internal reality, which is where the problem is, instead of trying to manage the external reality, which is only ever a sticking plaster fix. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen.